central belt of Scotland. The rain will be persistent through the morning and could turn heavy and even thundery at times. In Northern Ireland, overcast and wet as well, lighter winds in the west, but in the east, gusts are expected to reach 45 miles an hour along coastlines. So the rain turning heavy and thundery in the west by lunchtime, remaining largely dry and sunny in the east. And that's how the weather is shaping up during tomorrow morning.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us. We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Hello, I'm Andrew Doyle. In a moment it'll be time for Headliners, where I'll be taking you through Sunday's newspapers with the help of two fantastic comedians. But first, here's the news headlines with Polly Middlehurst.
Good evening. The latest news headlines. The Prime Minister will seek to put his by-election losses to one side as he meets world leaders in Europe over the coming days. At a G7 summit in Germany, Boris Johnson will promise a further £429 million of World Bank loans to Ukraine and urge allies to support President Zelensky as the war against Russia rages on. Following his trip to Rwanda, Boris Johnson has responded to criticism of his leadership, saying voters want to hear about the issues that affect them and not about any of the mistakes he may have made.
Things are tough. Of course, people are going to rightly going to direct their frustration, their irritation at government and at me. I'm the leader of the government. I think, to be absolutely clear, in the last few months, people in Tiverton, people in Wakefield just heard far too much about stuff they didn't want to be hearing about, and not enough about what we want to do to take the country forward.
Well, in other news today, the boss of the RMT has not ruled out further industrial action, although the Transport Secretary has said the strikes are damaging to commuters and the economy. Mick Lynch accused Grant Shapps, the Transport Secretary, of talking absolute nonsense after the minister tweeted what he called outdated working practices in the railway industry. On a third day of walkouts this week, just a fifth of train services have been running today as thousands of rail workers protested over jobs, pay and conditions. In news away from home, the Ukrainian president says his country will win back all the cities it lost to Russia. That includes the eastern city of Severodonetsk, which now has fallen to the hands of Moscow in Ukraine's biggest defeat so far. In a video address, Volodymyr Zelensky also said Ukraine had been hit by 45 Russian missiles and rockets over the last 24 hours. Well, Armed Forces Day has been marked up and down the UK today, and it included a display from the RAF's Red Arrows, who took to the skies to make their special shapes in the sky. Can I describe it like that if you're watching on television? Earlier, HMS Prince of Wales returned to Portsmouth Naval Base after completing exercises off the coast of Spain for NATO. And if you're watching on television, you can see the fantastic March of the Veterans on Scarborough's promenade. Also, the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge have been marking the day by paying tribute to all who've served their country here and abroad. So Paul McCartney's still on stage at Worthy Farm in Glastonbury, telling the crowd when he went on stage, good to be here, and playing a few opening songs of his headline slot. The rock star kicking off his set with a rendition of the Beatles' Can't Buy Me Love, which had them going crazy. Fans gathering from early afternoon to secure a spot at the Pyramid stage, ready to watch classic hits from Sir Paul's career. He's making history tonight as the festival's oldest solo headliner, 1 week after his 80th birthday. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+. You're with GB News. Now it's time for Headliners.
Thank you, Polly. Hello and welcome to Headliners. Joining me tonight, I've got Jonathan Cogan and Josh Howie. How are you both?
Doing great.
Good week?
Pretty good. Very good week. How are you? You've just been on TV for a few hours already.
Yeah, but that's sort of part of the course, you know what I mean? Yeah. And you, how about you? You've been doing your diet. Are you feeling full of energy today?
I've gone through the hump.
Ah, good.
And now I did a fast for 24 hours.
I don't know how you do it.
Yom Kippur. Yeah. But
I mean, you're basically like Gandhi at this point.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
how I see you.
Thank you.
As
holy, shining, slim, light. Well, I'm not there yet.
I don't think Gandhi was slimming because he was worried about his waistline.
I hear he was a narcissist. He was just doing it for looks.
Well, he pulled it off.
You heard it here first.
Pulled it off. Anyway, let's take a look at tomorrow's front pages, and we start with the Sunday Telegraph, which has PM imposes tariffs to win back Red Wall. Some people might say he's getting a bit desperate there, feeling like he's losing voters. We shall see. And don't betray Ukraine, Truss warns Macron. And also slavery must be taught as widely as the Holocaust, says Charles. I assume that's Prince Charles. Let's move on now to The Observer. And The Observer runs with PM's plan for third term, delusional. Lots of critics, and this is senior Conservatives are turning on Boris Johnson now. We've also got Greta Thunberg there at Glastonbury. I don't know what song she's doing. Pump Up the Jam, something like that, some old Tina Turner numbers, something I imagine so. And also Conservative donor given top role in choosing honour list. We move on next to the Sunday Mirror. And the Sunday Mirror goes with Priti Patel. Priti Patel breaks law in another asylum scandal. Of course, this is following straight off the European Court of Human Rights preventing her Rwanda deportation scheme. And this is about the High Court has now ruled that housing refugees in barracks in Kent until 2026 was in fact in breach of the Equality Act. Well, not a good day for Priti Patel. Let's move on now to the Sunday Times, which has Charles accepted €1 million cash in suitcase from Sheikh. And money from a former Qatari Prime Minister went to the Prince's Foundation. So maybe not quite as surreptitious as we thought. Anyway, let's move on now to the Sunday Express. Crackdown on militant unions. The Attorney General says it's time to take on the left-wing radicals. And also the strikes are apparently a kick in the teeth for struggling firms. That's according to ministers. And finally now the Daily Star. The Daily Star has No balls, please. And this is apparently there must be no romps in the Wimbledon woods. Well, I didn't assume that was allowed anyway. But there we go. Thanks to the Daily Star for bringing up that very urgent story. And those are your front covers. We have so many stories to get to, so let's crack right on. And this is starting with tomorrow's Daily Mail. Another big day, another big turning point in America. Jonathan.
Yes, actually, I'm going to do this one, if that's okay. But President Joe Biden on Saturday today, or yesterday when you're watching this, he signed into law a legislation. It marks the biggest changes to federal gun law in decades. And that's really only because the effort over the last previous few decades has been so absolutely pathetic.
So, I mean, for your view, I mean, apparently this has had a lot of bipartisan support. So people are sort of getting to the point, even in America, the world of guns, you know, the Second Amendment is sacrosanct to these people, but they're saying now we've got to do something because there are too many school shootings, too many, you know.
And I don't really see how this is going to change anything. Joe Biden saying, you know, their message to us was just do something like the parents of people, you know, today we did. It's like you did the bare minimum.
But, I mean, he is really addressing the idea of young people in particular getting hold of guns. I mean, that's a major factor, right?
Young people and bolster background checks, but it's still not enough. The main thing should be bringing back, they had it banned, the assault weapon thing. That's been used in a bunch of these murders. That has the biggest impact. It doesn't go against their law.
So you think it's the type of gun in play?
That's been proven again and again. So that's the thing that they desperately needed to try and bring
Jonathan,
back.
do you have any sympathy whatsoever for the NRA and conservatives and gun lobbyists in America who say, well, look, this is our Second Amendment, this is our Constitution, we have to have these rights?
So I was having quite a thorough discussion about this today with a friend of mine, and I was basically thinking, I mean, I'm so glad that the UK doesn't have all these guns. Would I, you know, bring their system over here? Absolutely not. But then I think, well, it is a different world over there. There are people who, you know, they work in really kind of rural areas and they need guns for their work, like people who work on farms. I know we have something similar here with shotguns and stuff, but also it's one of those things
that's
where...
not what they're talking about. Yeah, but I mean, they're talking about, they're changing the law now so that you can carry guns without a permit, concealed weapons in New York. Right, of all places.
Yeah.
Have you been in New York during rush hour? People are going to get shot.
The whole time, yeah.
People get angry.
And you say it's a different place. Yeah, it's a place where kids are getting murdered in school every couple of months.
Yeah.
That's the kind of place it is now.
And I'm sure, Jonathan, you're not defending that.
No, I'm not. I'm just thinking...
Are you, Jonathan?
All right, I've got a gun. No, I don't. It's what... Basically, do I think something that's in there, you know, the Second Amendment should be changed at this point? Yeah, possibly. But, I mean... Should the government... I don't know. I don't like the government telling people what to do.
We're not asking you to solve the crisis here.
What's the obvious answer? I mean, do I think there should be more guns about? No, I don't. Do I think there should be stricter regulation? Yes.
Is it just a matter of guns? There are lots of guns in Canada.
Yes.
They don't shoot up schools. So you know, there must be something else going on here. There must be something either cultural...
They're American.
You think it's just because they're American?
American, absolutely. Let me just have a brief shout-out to the Daily Mail, who just did my favourite thing. And first of all, they talk about 17 children dying. In Uvalde, it was 19.
Oh.
Maybe someone have a
little... typo.
Just a little typo there.
Very unfortunate typo, that we have to say.
Yeah, forgetting about... Also, they talk about the grocery store in Buffalo where 10 black people were killed and an elementary and school where 17 children but they don't mention the ethnicity of the children, which I think is a real shame.
OK, well, Josh, as ever, is often criticising the media as much as the stories that they represent. So good for you for being on their backs, as it should be. In Sunday's Observer, it looks like the ripple effects of Roe versus Wade's repeal are coming thick and fast. Jonathan, do you have the details?
Well, it's another polarising subject here, again in the States. So companies scramble to protect abortion access for employees after court ruling. So Disney and JP Morgan and Levi Strauss and Microsoft and others are offering to cover travel expenses for people who want to get abortions but face a Republican backlash. So, in response to this overturning of Roe v. Wade, some of America's largest companies have moved to protect their employees' access to abortion. And they're basically saying we're going to pay your expenses. But now there's a worry that this is going to have a massive rift between conservatives and liberals in corporate America.
It's always difficult, though, isn't it, when a corporation takes a stance that's basically along political lines, because they can't assume that all of their workforce feels exactly the same way.
Of course, probably half people will be for and half people will be against it. And another thing is, are they just serving their corporate interests here, or are they taking a moral stance? I'm a bit cynical. I think it's probably the former. But yeah, it does really just seem to be taking a stance that a lot of people are going to have a problem with.
Josh, do you have any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, well, first of all, well done to Disney there for backing this thing because, you know, really, if they're backing the whole pro-choice thing, you know, that's a lot of their future customers.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
Really, but I think the real story that's going to be coming on are the other laws that could be rescinded on the back of. There was a lot of laws in America placed on because of the whole Roe thing, like same-sex marriage and other things.
So
I can't really say.
Are you seriously concerned that we have like an activist Supreme Court that might effectively try and reverse?
The point is, if this has been reversed, the other things that are based upon it could also be reversed. Well, if this one doesn't count anymore, and that was what was used as part of the pre-exit for pushing those laws through.
So, yeah, no, I've heard this concern about the, you know, and I completely take that point. But to get back to the issue of the, you know, having to travel for the abortion, I mean, people will say that actually all this is doing is restoring democracy to the states, where it should be, so that each state can make their own
decentralised decision-making.
So it's not exactly like it's not a blanket ban on abortion. That's not happened here.
No.
So,
but there are certain ideas. Some people are saying that the states can still prosecute, or they can look into if people travelled.
Yes.
And so there are these other complications about what each state will go to, the lengths it will go to stop abortion.
And on the plus side, free holiday.
Yeah, free holiday. But there's a bit of a cost to it.
Well,
yeah. Oh, well, let's move on now. Sticking with tomorrow's Observer and sad news coming from Norway's capital. Josh, this is a horrible story.
It is a horrible story, yes. 2 people have been murdered by a radical Islamist with a history of mental illness and violence. He's a 42-year-old Norwegian national of Iranian origin. He's been known to the security services, as invariably these terrorists always are, since 2015.
Yeah.
They even spoke to him last month. And it's interesting because the consecutive shootings, there were 3 locations in Oslo, including a gay bar, which it's interesting that they mentioned that because it felt like they've never talked about. Remember the 3 men in Reading?
Yes,
who are
that's
all
right.
gay and they're killed in the park by an Islamist.
Yes.
Shouting Allahu Akbar, and the fact that they were gay just had like no press whatsoever.
That was interesting, wasn't it? Because in that case, it was very clearly a homophobic attack.
Yeah.
It was because they were gay.
Yeah.
And there was almost this sense in which the media were afraid of an Islamophobic backlash if they mentioned the point.
Yeah.
But that's pretty disgusting.
It is disgusting. So they mentioned it here, but what they've also mentioned about 1,000 times in this article is that he has a history of mental illness.
Okay.
It's like how many times can you fit this in rather than talking about there are people with mental illness out there who don't go out and murder strangers.
So it's almost as though it's kind of excuse making.
I believe so. Yeah.
Well, what do we do, Jonathan? There is an issue with homophobia among Islamists, of course, but generally speaking, in the Islamic community, there is a problem with it. Surveys tell us again and again, and this idea that if we don't acknowledge that, or that we shouldn't acknowledge that for fear of stirring up Islamophobia, that doesn't change the problem, and it doesn't help gay Muslims, does it?
Well, not at all. And it seems very strange to not mention one form of hatred or phobia for the sake of another one. It almost seems like there's then a hierarchy of who to offend.
Well, we had that with the grooming gang scandal, didn't we? I mean, the police pretty much admitted that they were fearful of stoking racial tension if they were to. I mean, they let children be abused rather than foment racial tension.
And the report that came out this week was just unbelievable.
Incredible stuff, some of it.
I couldn't read it.
It's just unbelievable. Someone in police station going in and reporting, just kicked out of police stations.
So, I mean, it comes back to this point, and obviously we should say this is early days. We don't know too much about what happened here in Oslo. But we do have to accept that there's a problem, and this was on a gay pride day. It was the day of the pride parade, right? It was, quite clearly a homophobic attack, I think. Well,
the Norwegian Prime Minister, Jonas Gahr Støre, he says, even though we do not know that the queer community was the target, the queer community were the victims. Now, I'm very interested to see if that is a direct translation from Norwegian.
Yes.
He said gay community or homosexual, and the Guardian translated it to queer.
Very interesting. I don't even know what the queer community means.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. Anyway, let's move on to hopefully something a bit cheerier. So the Sunday Telegraph next, and We are sick of the endless scrutiny of our leaders, are we, Jonathan?
Apparently so. Well, Boris Johnson seems to think so.
So he's sick of people scrutinising him?
Yeah, isn't that convenient?
That's what you think it is, but no.
I thought he was an attention seeker. I thought he'd love that.
No, he thinks everybody else is sick of it. Sorry, mate.
All right, go on, Jonathan.
He likes the
explain.
good stuff being scrutinised. OK, so Boris Johnson, endless scrutiny of my character is driving people nuts.
This is an interesting tactic.
Yeah. Stop looking at the bad stuff I've done. Anyway, well, so the Prime Minister says voters are fed up of hearing about how he stuffed up and urges Tory MPs to concentrate on debating policies and plans.
OK.
Is that just somebody who is trying to get away from scrutiny? Or, I mean...
It's too obvious, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's such a bad ploy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not difficult to see through it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, but at the same time, sometimes you are sick of hearing about the messy politics side of politics, and you want to hear the actual discussions, and you get so bogged down in the goss, so to speak.
But I mean, I guess a lot of people did get sick of the Partygate thing. A lot of people were sort of saying, well, look, lots of people were breaking the rules. Do we have to keep going on about it? It was just a cake.
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, I remember listening to interviews on the day after. I mean, this week, the Tories have lost 2 by-elections. That's the first time that's ever happened. On the same day, and listening to interviews afterwards, and of course this isn't necessarily 100% representative, but everybody that was interviewed were Conservatives who were saying, I'm just sick of Johnson, and they wanted to go. So when he says, I think people are actually, people were fed up of hearing about things I stuffed up or allegedly stuffed up. It's like, no, mate, they're fed up of you.
And not only that, it's people on his own side. It's a Conservative that, are going for him. So, but he's not... I mean, I was talking on the Mark Dolan show earlier to a celebrity psychologist who says that Johnson just isn't... He doesn't have the capacity to step down or to acknowledge that he is at fault. This is not in his nature.
Well, he's like Corbyn in that way.
Well, there we
Classic
go.
narcissist.
But that doesn't it help being a narcissist to become the leader?
Well, that's what it's...
Maybe you have to be a narcissist to want to be leader.
I think it certainly helps. So, talking of psychology, so asked by the BBC whether he would change in the wake of the losses, he said, if you're saying you want me to undergo some sort of psychological transformation, I think that our listeners will know that that is not going to happen.
Like not being a massive liar.
Yeah.
There we go. That's one thing. He's dropping these quotes all over the place. It's like they want to hear about stuff we're going to develop because of Brexit. We're doing a huge amount of stuff, like what? It's not stopping suppose the economy is now 5% behind what it would be if we hadn't left. But there's also this one where he says, if we're going to have an argument about politics, let's have an argument about, for instance, how the railways run. They don't run, mate. On your watch. And he also says here, we want to hear about the plans. And to be fair, it's not like Labour's coming up with some great plans. Keir Starmer's not coming out with all these brilliant alternatives.
Yeah.
But this thing here is brilliant, where he says, what's the plan to help my kids own a home? True. What's the plan to take the country forward? What's the plan to take advantage of Brexit? And you're like, what? Mate, it's 6 years. You don't have a plan?
I'm really enjoying this sort of the stream of consciousness. Just spitting out various phrases.
He's throwing it out, but it's worked for him in the past.
It has. Interesting technique. Anyway, talking of scrutiny, we've got the Times next, and what Boris is doing to build back better in the garden.
Yeah, and I just want to say that before I get tweets about how I'm Boris bashing and whatever, he's doing it to himself, OK? I'm just commenting on the newspapers
exactly.
here, all right?
Don't
scrutinise.
Yes, but as Boris Johnson says, people are sick of commentators on TV pointing out when he says stupid things.
Yeah, exactly. And here's another thing. It turns out that Boris, they wanted to build a treehouse at Chequers for their son Wilf, and it was going to cost £150,000. And guess who they were looking to get the money? Mr. Lord Brownlow of the old wallpaper fame. And they were going to... who is this Lord Brownlow? Because I want to be friends with Lord Brownlow.
Why are you spending £150,000 on a child's present?
Because he's a baller, that's why.
No,
that is outrageous amount of money.
This child is bound to be spoilt, OK? Because, I get that. And all the children of rich parents are a bit spoiled.
Well, whilst they're still together, yes, he's going to be spoiled.
£150,000 on a gift, that's
ridiculous.
I feel
like £150,000 tree house is once you've split up.
But they're saying that it's also going to be these tree houses can have hot tubs, yoga studios.
How old is this child?
Well, exactly, a couple of years old. And also, there's supposedly it talks about here, you can add a basket and a pulley on the deck, so you can raise and put in champagne, and you're just thinking, yeah, well, Wilf is particularly partial to
Fair enough. A maid quarters.
I bet he is, actually.
Yeah.
But so they're not doing it because of the security risks, right?
As it turns out, at the end of the day, it wasn't because people might go, wait a minute, this is ridiculous, and houses cost more than this in some parts of the country.
Exactly.
It's because even though they were going to put in like bulletproof glass,
Yes.
you know, for visiting Americans, it just turns out it was still like viewable from the road.
Yeah, you could see the treehouse from the road, and that's dangerous, obviously.
Right.
So it is, you know, they don't want to make the child a target, but also it's bad for a child to buy them expensive gifts. Did you have expensive gifts growing up?
I was given a Nintendo 64 once.
Well, then you're spoiled as well. You're as bad as Wolf.
True.
Clearly.
I was pretty spoiled.
You were actually pretty spoiled as well.
Sorry.
I got an orange for Christmas, half a Toblerone if I'm lucky. And that's still the case.
Wow.
Coming up.
Let's grow up north.
Should NHS workers get a pay rise? Which toilets should transgender people use? And the clergy getting involved in protecting children from pornography. You won't want to miss that. See you in 2 minutes.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
On radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
we're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners with me, Andrew Doyle, and I'm delighted to be joined tonight by Jonathan Cogan and Josh Howie. So we're going to crack on with The Independent, and Britain looks to be abandoning its principles to secure trade deals. Is this the case? Jonathan, what's going on?
It seems to be. So, UK quietly dropped human rights and rule of law from list of goals in Gulf trade deal. So the government has dropped human rights and the rule of law from its list of objectives in negotiating a trade deal with Gulf states. So the two items were included in the consultation on what the trade deal should achieve, which was published in October, but they did not make it into the final list published this week. And
so effectively, these are nations like Saudi Arabia, Qatar,
Yes.
places where they're not particularly progressive.
Not
Human rights aren't the priority. Let's put it diplomatically.
Yes. So, I mean, it's one of those questions, is it important that we just strike a deal now to help the economy, or are these places where, until they kind of sort their human rights issues out, we shouldn't be trading with them?
Is it the case, Josh, that we have to accept that we depend upon these countries for trade for all sorts of reasons, and actually we're not going to impose our values on them because they don't want them?
No, that is the case exactly. But the government
Have we tried tweeting them? That could work.
Have what?
Yeah.
Have we tried tweeting them?
Tweeting them or setting up an online petition?
Yeah.
Yes.
That'll bring down the Saudi royal family.
The UK government at the moment is so desperate for these deals.
Yeah.
Because they think that that's going to somehow get us out of this economic quagmire that we find ourselves from Brexit. Now, the interesting thing is right near the end of the article is that it just says that actually, even with all the UK free trade deals and all of that, Brexit losses are going to be 178 times larger anyway. So even if we get all these brilliant future trade deals, free trade deal, that it's not going to make a difference. And actually, there's someone here, there was a public accounts committee this year that said they're not even sure if any of these FTAs are going to bring any actual economic benefit.
Well, I knew you'd bring it around to Brexit,
Well,
Josh, but ultimately we're not going to know whether we benefited or not, economically speaking, for another 30, 40 years when we can look back with hindsight and say, oh.
Hopefully we'll still be here, so I can tell you I told you so. Yes, right. GBNews.
You know, but what do we do about that? I mean, like in Saudi Arabia, for instance, the Crown Prince is considered very progressive, actually. You know, women can drive. Now, I think they still have to get permission to travel from their husbands or something like that. But, you know, it's baby steps, right?
Yeah.
You know,
they don't drive well.
No,
but
of
they're
course,
allowed.
Well, they're out of practice,
yes,
to be fair. But, you know, do we appease these people for the sake of our own economic privilege? Or do we, do more of an effort? I mean, Qatar, for instance, couldn't we do a little bit more about Qatar's terrible human rights abuses and anti-gay rights problems, given that we now have this platform there of a World Cup?
I mean, how would you do it there? How would you get away with it? Would you just sort of have some kind of like miniature protest when you were there during the matches?
Maybe.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, how's that going to go down?
I think all of the football players there should kiss each other on the
take a knee, then have
on
a
the
kiss.
pitch.
Topless.
Yeah, I think they should do it. I think they should dance YMCA at every interval. Is it called an interval?
Half-time.
Half-time.
Yeah.
OK, that's it. Well, look...
you know, if that happens, I will actually watch football.
It would make it more interesting,
just
wouldn't it?
To see that, yeah.
I mean, it's already quite homoerotic.
It really is.
Tackles.
Yeah. Maybe that's just my view on it. OK, let's move on quickly before it gets too dirty. The Observer next, and experts say those NHS workers should be paid more. Josh?
Yes, they should be more, but what they're saying is 4%. This is from independent experts. The pay review body recommendations come out at 4%. The government wanted about 3%.
OK.
Obviously, the NHS, they want it to be more like 9%.
Well, you know, cost of living crisis,
yes,
inflation, and, you know, we can't knock the NHS. These people work hard, really hard, in terrible circumstances.
But there is really good news here, because it turns out to increase 1%.
Yes.
Of their wages is going to cost the NHS England $700 million a year.
OK.
Right? But because we got $350 million a week to spend on the NHS back from Brexit,
yes,
it's only going to take a couple of months to make that up.
So you've done the maths?
I've done the maths.
It works out.
Actually, I don't see what the problem is. I mean, unless that whole $350 million a week thing was a lie. Otherwise, it's all good.
Josh, I suspect your agenda is really coming back to the fore here.
Are you pro or against Brexit?
I marched twice. You know what it is? OK, I'm not going to go on.
No, let's not do that.
Let's not go on about Brexit. But yes, of course, this is going to be the same with all the different things, except, of course, the NHS...
The idea that we can't fund the NHS properly simply because we're out of the European Union is nonsense. No. We could do.
OK. So
and there would be ways to do so.
It's a huge amount of money it would take to go back up to 9... And already, because of COVID, of course, which is some other people's favourite subjects, we're already $2 billion below what we need to just catch up, basically. So there's
Jonathan,
a lot of money.
you must have sympathy with the NHS workers. I mean, they are underpaid and overworked, and it's tough.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been like that for a long time, though, and especially with the last 2 years they've had.
Yeah.
What do we do? Print more money? Or do we just...
Well, they have been. Quantitative easing.
Yeah,
that's what they've been
printing.
doing.
That's what's got us into this problem.
Exactly.
Debasing the currency.
Doesn't work.
No.
All right, let's move on now to the Mail on Sunday next, and a story about bathroom freedoms for trans people. This comes up again and again.
It does. It's a real...
Especially
very regular.
on this channel.
Well, because no one else is.
I know.
Because no one else is talking about it. That's why.
I know. I totally agree with you.
It's important that we talk about it.
Tell me,
Jonathan. Let's do it. Let's do it some more.
OK, so in the Daily Mail, civil servants are told to let self-identifying trans staff use whichever single-sex toilets they want under official guidance. So government officials were given a gender identity and intersex HR handbook, which provides advice for those who identify as transgender, non-binary or intersex and their managers. The guide, written in collaboration with trans rights groups, say all individuals have the right to express their identity at work and present in their gender.
What are your thoughts on this, Jonathan?
Well, I'm a big advocate for self-expressing however you want to express. You know, you should. That's a big part of everything. It's a big part of comedy. It's a big part of just, you know, having an online presence, whatever. Express yourself how you want to. The toilet thing... Again, that doesn't really bother me too much. There's toilets here that
Well, lucky for you, eh? Lucky that you're not a woman who hasn't been sexually assaulted and maybe doesn't want to be in an intimate space
Let me finish.
with men. Okay,
It
all right.
doesn't bother me that much because I don't know very much about it. Okay, carry on.
Okay, Jonathan. Well, yes, before Josh lays into you too hard. No, but you make a point, you're like, exactly. Some women who have been through those sorts of terrible experiences, they want those things.
Or even women who haven't.
And women who haven't.
Yeah, maybe they don't want to clean wee off the toilet seats.
Maybe there's just the practical elements
fair,
to it.
absolutely fair
But
enough.
I think the key thing about this story is they're talking about self-identification effectively. In other words, they're saying if someone says they're non-binary, says they're a trans, whatever, and they just say it, then they can have access to whatever spaces they want. I don't think that's
absolutely.
fair.
And also, they're just saying flexible. This includes flexible gender identities, i.e., people who differ from day to day.
Yes.
Which is what the whole Mayor Fawcett, her case was all about. Because she supposedly said something about a guy who also says he's a woman a couple of days, and that person won businesswoman of the year.
What happens if that happens midway through using the toilet? Do you think
Well, that's the problem. Do they think
sit down?
There are some people who identify as, but depending on what day it is, what day of the week.
Well, that
it is.
was what. Yeah. So there are people like that. So, but this is going out to civil servants, the people who actually run the country. If you watch Yes Minister, it is from 2019. To be fair, and it's been released under this Freedom of Information Act.
Yes.
And the government has said that they're standing behind, which is more recent policy, where they're going that spaces reserved for women and girls are to be maintained, which is in line with the Equality Act. But they haven't said what they're doing as any counter guidance to this. This is the official guidance they've already got.
Yeah.
They haven't said, here's our new guidance.
OK, well, but here's the problem, is that the civil service is completely ideologically captured. We know this now. There have been multiple reports and whistleblowers. The civil service, the machinery of government, has a very partisan ideological line. That means that we can't vote them out. It doesn't matter whether Labour are in power, Conservatives are in power, we're going to get this woke nonsense. So we have to do something about the quangos, about the civil service, about all of these supposedly non-partisan
This is why
bodies.
they should make a report that goes out to all these people, say, oh, actually, that thing that we said a couple of years ago isn't necessarily true, because that's not the policy anymore.
Well, look, let's move on. We're going to stick with the Mail on Sunday now. This is a feminist. Another feminist has been cancelled. What's the reason this time, Josh?
Yes, so she, Julie Bindel, super famous feminist.
Feminist author, journalist.
She was wanted to give a talk at Nottingham, in a library in Nottingham, and they basically found out who it was giving a talk. Now, I should say this talk was about, didn't really have anything to do with trans rights. It was about the feminist activism to end male violence in Nottingham. So it's not even directly about the issues. But when the council found out, and people kicked up a bit of a stink to get her out of this private room, then she said, well, I'll hold it in the library. She said, no, you cannot come into our library. And then the authority said that Ms. Bindel's views on transgender rights were at odds with its equality, diversity and inclusion strategy. Basically meaning that their equality, diversity and inclusion strategy doesn't include women and stopping violence against them. So there is even possibility, and people are talking online about doing some sort of crowdfunding to sue Nottingham Council.
Well, it's quite clear. I mean, I would suggest, I'm not a lawyer, but a lot of lawyers online are saying that this is unlawful discrimination. The Maya Starter case made it absolutely clear that this is a protected belief, the belief in the immutability of sex and the necessity to recognise biological sex differences for women's-based rights. That is protected in law. And if they're saying you can't come and give this talk, a talk, by the way, on ending male violence against women, which is something that Julie Bindel has been campaigning on since she was 17. This feels pretty despicable to me. Jonathan?
Well, one of the things I found really interesting about this is that, so she was saying one of the reasons why this has been cancelled is because misogynistic men's rights activists masquerading as supporters of trans rights have badgered and harassed the venue to the point where they feel they have to cancel it. So she's saying it's actually misogynistic men who are using the trans right issue to then attack this group, which is a kind of very meta...
well, that's what's been going on for the last 6-7 years.
Do you reckon that's actually what it is? It's like,
well, there's a lot.
If you look at the footage,
there's a lot of misogyny underpinning a lot of these protests. You can see it. You can see the venom.
You can see the anger that's coming out, and one of them even had an erection in the photo. No, seriously, last week there was a bunch of guys, and one of them was there screaming hatred at women.
I had a good time.
And they had zoomed in on him. He had an erection.
I mean, there is, you can see the sort of the types of threats that people like J.K. Rowling, other feminists get. A lot of them are sexual in nature, just deeply misogynistic.
So you don't think these people, that the misogynistic aggressive men. You don't think they believe the trans rights and they're thinking that this violence justifies the means, or they are literally...
Well, I mean, using it as an excuse.
Wow. I can't see into someone's head. You know, I have no idea, and I know there's a lot of passionate feelings on both sides of the debate. But what we can say is a lot of this behaviour is completely unacceptable, and it keeps happening. I think it's terrible that Nottingham City Council are capitulating to this.
They have absolutely damned themselves. The letter they put out today in response to this, like I said, and like you said, it is legally protected now to have gender-critical beliefs. That is very firmly stated out in law, and they say here that the Speaker's view on transgender rights was what? She has those rights. She has a right to be in that space. And to be fair to her, she was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to do this out in the street. And that's what she did.
Yeah, which is great. And by the way, some of the protesters were overheard talking about how they didn't want Julie Burchill to give a talk. Julie Burchill is not Julie Bindel. These are different people, right? So they didn't even know who it was. They didn't know.
I mean, they're so reactionary.
It's so reactionary. It's unbelievable. Anyway, let's move on now to the Sunday Telegraph. And this is pornography and the clergy. That's not two words I like bringing together, to be honest.
Don't make two go to bedfellows. Poor phrasing. So, porn site age verification would stop distorted sexualisation of children, say the clergy. So porn websites need age verification checks to prevent the distorted sexualisation of children, the clergy have said, amid criticism of lack of government.
And by clergy, you mean the Church of England? The Church of England is weighing in on the pornography debate.
Yes.
And saying, effectively, we need those age verification elements to protect the
Absolutely.
kids.
So it's good to hear the Church sort of, against the sexualisation
They've done a lot
of children.
of personal research on this.
Let's not cast aspersions on the show. But
allegedly.
But is it going to work? I mean, ultimately, the problem is kids are very tech-savvy. They're all accessing pornography, and they'll find a way around it.
No parent can stop their kids from doing it. You can't. It's impossible.
Well, if they're determined, but certainly you could help block the younger kids, because there are reports going out. The BBC Panorama report showed that half of 11 to 13-year-olds had seen pornography. I imagine a lot of that came down from certain people not deleting their internet history.
Found speaking from personal
sort of auto-complete on Google.
Yeah. I mean, this is why I'm grateful not to be a parent, because I just think this sort of stuff terrifies me. When I was a teacher, we had a speaker come in and sort of address the fact, and he addressed the kids on the assumption that they had all watched porn, and he was right. They had, and it's terrible. Yeah, terrifying.
But the thing was, a law requiring age verification for access to commercial porn was meant to come in.
That was years ago, wasn't
it? From 2018.
Yeah.
It never did. Yeah. And even now they're putting the new online safety bill and all that stuff. But all they could say here is that one of the ways they could control it could be via age verification. That's what the clergy is saying. Let's actually make it age verification. Don't say could be. And
I'm just sceptical it's going to make any difference. I think you've got to change the attitude. You've got to change the culture, but I don't know.
Well, I've said this before on the show, bring back porn mags.
That's Josh Howie's solution, everyone. We're going to leave that there. And coming up after the break, we have disgruntled Google users, magic mushrooms, and why men have no friends. Stay tuned.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV.
On radio. On digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back to Headliners. I'm Andrew Doyle, and still with me on this romp through the headlines is Jonathan Cogan and Josh Howie, all set to crack on now with The Observer. And we've got a story about cocaine, class and culture. Josh.
Yes, so first of all, I should just say I've never taken cocaine because I'm annoying enough. So
I believe you.
Thank you.
Many wouldn't.
Yes, this article is even more annoying than me. It goes on forever. It says, like, it just covers the whole of humanity.
It's written by someone who's clearly done a lot of cocaine.
This person is like, they took a lot of cocaine and then just spoke into a microphone, and then it was.
Do they have a central thesis?
The central sort of thesis is they went into a town. They went to Aberdeen. They went there to write a book or something, and ended up working at a chicken shop and doing loads of coke. So I guess the central thesis would be that cocaine is now not just like for posh people or middle class, it's across society, and she has seen it with her own eyes. But she brings in like a missing boy from the 80s, she brings in oil rigs.
Is this person selling a book or what?
Well, I think they had a book in the past, but she's written
25 pages. Shows she wanted to write a book and couldn't write one. Instead, she's written a.
She also talks about how because she was standing on her feet for 8 hours, they had to take to smoke weed.
Well, look, I get it.
They had to because their legs were hurting. I've worked in a bar for years. Like, yes, you get back, your legs are killing you. Don't mean you're smoking weed.
So is this?
You don't have to.
Is this piece sort of acting in favour of drug use? Because that's not very.
No, I think she's just saying it's ubiquitous, basically.
It's ubiquitous. Well, it's ubiquitous as Guardian readers. These are middle-class readers.
Degenerates. Yes.
But now they're like, oh, poor people taking as well. Really? Oh, fascinating.
Let's move on now. This is a story from The Times. Some people fed up with Google, Jonathan.
Disgruntled Googlers search for an alternative. So. Basically,
people... What about Ask Jeeves? What happened to that?
That's coming back.
Yahoo!
Yeah.
Come on.
DuckDuckGo is the new one. That's one people are recommending, yeah.
Okay.
Well, so the people are saying that basically Google has jumped the shark. It's no longer what it once was in terms of a search engine. So, frustrated by unhelpful results and mountains of adverts, analysts believe that people are changing how they use the world's most popular search engine in an effort to access information that comes from real people and trustworthy sources. So a lot of people are feeling that Google, you search something nowadays and it just comes up with ads or very curated results which don't necessarily get to the point of what you're searching for. A lot of people are now searching a question and then adding Reddit in to get an entry from an actual person online rather than just some automated website or... Yeah, I mean... I still kind of use Google for everything 100 times a day.
I mean, it's so natural because to Google has become a verb that we all use. But it's also very ideologically driven. And when you search for certain things, they will prioritise, they will manipulate the search engine.
Andrew Doyle.
But Andrew Doyle, I mean, yeah, exactly. Some terrible things come up.
Crazy things.
All of my bad reviews come up first. Don't tell me that's not someone in Silicon Valley who's out to get me.
They've got
Zuckerberg. Yeah.
But I didn't know that there are a lot of clickbait sites now. I said it. So websites are deliberately created to draw with the search words and stuff, and then they don't actually have much information on it. They just have adverts. So there is a problem there, but Google is saying they do like 5,000 new things a year and blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of clever blokes and women and they, thems and whatever. I'm sure they'll get on top of it somehow.
I think we just have to destroy the internet, start again. I think it's caused so many problems.
Books,
get rid
back
of it.
to VHS.
Back to books, back to libraries.
Back to scrolls.
Tamagotchi.
Scrolls.
Oh, scrolls.
Let's do it. I'm all for it. OK, now, this Sunday... And we're not reactionary at all. Very progressive. Now, the Sunday Mail and another story about consequences of lockdown.
Yeah,
Josh.
this is pretty hardcore for the Mail. I'm sort of surprised that they've written this, because it's pretty damning on the lockdown. And
that's not that surprising, I don't
you think the Mail has been... sort of, I thought Mail was like all along with the narrative.
This is the Mail on Sunday, which is different.
Slightly different. It's a bit of a sad story as well. Basically, children are now going into their first year. Children who are born or born soon after. Now, going into the first year of school, being totally unprepared, some of them in nappies, terrible vocabularies, and it's a very sad story. And some of the examples are just horrible. People alone and with like single-parent families, and there's like abandonment issues because they didn't know that they had an issue. And it's what then halfway through the article, teachers start blaming. The teachers I spoke to are clear where the blame lies. Poor parenting during lockdown. I'm like, whoa, wow, okay. Hey, teachers who wanted to stay off longer because they were afraid, whereas everybody else got back to their jobs.
Yeah, I thought you might have something to say about that.
Yeah, exactly. So I was getting angrier and angrier through this article.
I heard you in the office, you're stamping off her.
I was just getting really upset about it because also this woman, this mum talks about something exactly the same happened to me. We live in a flat, but she's with one kid, or two kids. She got down the stairs, went out to the park on the one sunny day, and sat on a bench breastfeeding her kid. And the police asked her to move on. Now, people might say, oh, this is not true. That happened to me. We got off, we live in a flat, we don't have a garden, went out to the park with the kids, and police came over and like, how long have you done? Oh, OK, well, you've got 15 more minutes, then you've got to move on.
Draconian.
I've got 5 kids here, mate. They need to be outside.
A lot of people did not understand the pressures on parents, I don't think, during this whole process.
It was great. And then I just see photos online of people going, oh, I can't believe I went to the park and people were there. And I'm like, you've got you've got a garden. You've got a massive garden. What are you doing out?
Do you have a garden? You were OK, Jonathan, weren't you?
I was OK. We went to Oxford for a bit.
To your second home?
To my girlfriend's parents' second home.
My girlfriend's parents'
I'm
second
a working
home.
man, yeah. And that was super nice, but I broke all the laws because I didn't believe in them.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah, all of them. That's on record.
There you are.
Unfortunately, I did go along with it for longer than I should have.
It's a hoax.
But you know what?
Allegedly.
Of course, this is having a massive impact, and mostly on poor families.
Yes.
Of course, because they can't afford the tutors to do catch-up and stuff like that. They had parents who are working through, and the discrepancy that you're going to see over the next 10, 15, 20 years, the impact is going to last a long time.
That's what, I mean, I've been thinking about that a lot. We don't know what the implications of this generation are. They're absolutely...
It's scary. And I feel blessed because we have a 4-year-old, he's about to start his first year of school.
So that's good timing.
Yeah, but he had older siblings.
Yeah.
No, so the timing was terrible. If it was just him... And also they're talking about people with masks, like babies not being able to respond to people, like to have people coming and visit and stuff. So, but because he has older siblings, he's like totally fine. He's going to like be running the country.
He was still interacting with kids.
But the ones who are going up to GCSE point, I mean, I mean, that's pretty disastrous. Anyway, we've got to move on now. This is a story in The Observer, and shopping can be a nightmare for some, but not because of rising prices, Jonathan.
No, there's another excuse this time. Shopping is a nightmare. How ADHD affects people's spending habits. So research has shown that the effects of ADHD can have quite significant, the effects that ADHD can have on a person's finances. So there's research that's been done, and it's been done by Monzo, the digital bank, and it's also been conducted by YouGov, and it found that living with ADHD, you are 4 times more likely to frequently impulse spend than those people who do not have the condition.
Right.
I think I've got ADHD. I've self-diagnosed, which is, I think, how most people find out they have ADHD.
I think you can do that now. Did you Google it for your symptoms?
I didn't even bother. I just assumed I had it. It sounds like a funny thing to say.
Fair enough.
If you've got ADHD, you should bank with Monzo. And this is a wonderful advert for Monzo that they've just cut and pasted and put into an article. How many times are you going to mention Monzo there, Guardian?
Do you think that's what they're doing?
Oh my, it is unbelievable. I never realised it was something I needed. With Monzo, everything is colourful and feels like... I mean, this written in the article.
This isn't just inserted from somewhere, it's in the article.
It's in the article.
Amazing.
Like, just straight from the thing. Also, by the way, Guardian, whilst we're at it, they talk here about how 1 in 4 prisoners have ADHD, and then they go, this is how they prove that like ADHD is massive. On TikTok, videos tagged ADHD have been viewed more than 12 billion times.
TikTok creates ADHD. That's what it does.
That proves anything.
Wow. OK, we've got to move on now. Sticking with The Observer. Here's a rather trippy story about mushrooms. This will be you, won't it, Josh?
This is it. Magic mushrooms. Are they Jewish? We are both of the tribe. And
the magic mushroom consuming tribe.
Yeah. And a rabbi, although we say he's a rabbi, but he was ordained online in a year course. It takes 7 years to become a rabbi.
Can you do that? Like, can you just ordain yourself on that?
You can do anything you want, but he ain't a proper rabbi. But essentially, he got busted in America with a bunch of weed. And it turns out, even like his congregation, such as it is, it's just a bunch of people who want to take mushrooms.
So wait, is he suggesting that the mushrooms are part of his culture?
That's what he's saying. That's why he's going to try and get off, because he could get 15 years in prison. But in America now, because of freedom of religion, there is an argument that's been done before where if it's part of your religion, you can get off.
But can you just invent a new religion and say part of my religion is I have to take coke every third day?
Absolutely. Just get a couple of followers.
I mean, that's mad.
Foxton's religion. No, so so psychedelics are actually a massive part of all organised religions. That's how they originated.
Is that right?
Again, yeah, no, they did. They all originated from mushroom cults. Christianity came from a mushroom cult. This is actually true.
This sounds completely. This sounds like you're on mushrooms right now, Jonathan.
Well, like a microdose, but it's the most fascinating thing ever. Look into the history of psychedelics and organised religion. It's so interesting. Right. Look it up.
Well, look, none of us are theologians, so I don't think we should.
But I did, as you know, train to be a rabbi. And it's just not true. It's only mentions wine and stuff.
Why are you saying this now? That means you can't take mushrooms on holiday.
But you know what? One of the trainee rabbis I was studying with, we went down to Egypt for a weekend, and when we came back, he had all this hash on him. Because he was a big follower of that.
Midnight Express.
Yeah, and he.
Well, you know the burning bush, right?
He ate it. Yeah. Well, the burning bush they're saying could have been
the acacia tree full of DMT.
Yeah.
That's how.
Wait, you're suggesting that the burning bush, God appearing to Moses,
it's psychedelic.
Is a psychedelic hallucination.
That's what all these visions could have been.
That's what they all are. That's literally it sounds crazy, but you have it's the most interesting thing in the world.
To end the story, he ate it all before coming back through, and then he vomited and was sick and nearly got arrested.
Well, I'm
going
to put a stop to this blasphemy that we're having now. That was a miracle.
True.
The burning bush. It wasn't a hallucination. Goodness me. Anyway, let's move on. This is the Sunday Sun. And have you ever lost something? Mark Zuckerberg might have it in his metaverse. Jonathan, tell me about this. But I tell you what, I'm sceptical about the metaverse, but we'll come to that.
Well, more Jews now. So Mark Zuckerberg says metaverse could replace some of your belongings, including TV. So Marky Z thinks that the metaverse means we could eventually do away with some physical goods. You will own nothing, and you will be happy.
No, you will own nothing and you will be nothing.
No, that's not true. He says you'll own a chair. You'll have the chair to sit on.
Why do we keep going down this road where we have to live in an imaginary world? You know, I thought we did away with this with virtual reality, those stupid helmets.
Well, that's what it would be. So you'd be in virtual reality and you'd have your simulated TV. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually think some of these ideas are pretty cool. But do I want Facebook in charge of
No, look, I tell you what.
No.
There's a short story by E.M. Forster called The Machine Stops, and it's set in a dystopian future where everyone's sitting in their own little chamber and all they've got are screens. And that's all they have.
Yeah.
And it is horrible, and I don't want to live in that story.
No, it sounds terrible. But what if it gave you such high levels of pleasure all the time that it was better than reality? No?
Not having it.
No? Fair enough.
No, let's move on. The Mail on Sunday next, and a relatable story for us all, Josh.
Yeah, why do so many men have so few friends?
Yeah.
Matt Stickens asked after he couldn't find anyone to be his best man, which is also the plot of a very funny movie called I Love You Man with Paul Rudd and Jason Segel. And
you have friends, don't you, Josh?
Well, less and less. You're my best friend now, so.
Oh, blimey, that is serious.
It's getting bad.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting long article which doesn't provide any solutions as to why.
Again,
that's why he doesn't have any friends.
I suspect this article is a book advert, isn't it? Like he's written a book.
Surprise, yes, it is a book advert. And then the end of the story, he's like, oh, and in the end, I got my best girlfriends to be my best man.
Oh, what a loser!
What a simp!
Come on, you.
Not on.
Jonathan, what do you think? Have you got? Do you think men struggle to find close friendships? Are we just scared of intimacy?
Well, one of the kind of bad things about being a guy is that you can't really express your feelings to your male friends. But also
That's true. Is that true?
Well, one of the good things about being a guy is that your male friends can't express their feelings to you. So it kind of all evens out. But I think people have friends. Maybe as you get a bit older and you sort of settle down with the family, the circle diminishes a bit.
Yeah, well, then it becomes. I've got a lot of dads who we're mates with. We go out about once a month, have a pint.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't buy it. I think it's a stereotype.
You've got to have guy friends.
No.
Exactly.
And we get into very deep stuff.
Yeah.
Very deep.
Romances.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe that's something different. Anyway, Sunday's Metro now, and Planet of the Apes doesn't look too different from this next story.
This is how Planet of the Apes started. I'm pretty shook by this. So, knife-wielding monkey running riot and terrorising town. So,
which town is this?
This is a town in Brazil. I don't know if I know the actual town, but it's a Brazilian town, and it seems like quite...
Corrente.
Corrente. You read the whole article, eh?
Josh is very proud of his accents. That's why he does it.
Very nice.
Corrente.
And what did this knife-wielding monkey do?
Well, so he picked up a hunting knife and had just been sort of running around...
Where? Exactly.
Which town was it?
No, but where did he get Corrente? But I mean, where did he find a hunting knife? Just
I think just around. Maybe someone was chopping a
that's Brazil for
coconut or something. But one resident captured a video of the monkey seemingly sharpening the knife against a brick wall.
What?
That's terrifying.
There you go.
Wait, so it's developed the capacity to sharpen tools?
Maybe it's seen a human do it. Maybe it's just realised
this might be one of your films.
So it's not just because I've been frightened about AI developments this week. Now I should have been looking at the monkeys.
Yeah.
Not the computers.
Never take your eye off the monkeys with a knife.
No, it's very terrifying. I mean, so far the monkey has killed 2 police officers and 1 banana vendor. Harrowing stuff.
What, so he said the monkey's actually killed?
No, he hasn't.
It hasn't killed?
No, I was making up the news.
Oh, don't. That's fake news. Let's not do that. Anyway, listen, that's enough time. Enough of this for one night. Do join us again tomorrow for Headliners at 11 o'clock, where we'll be going through tomorrow's papers. See you then. Farewell.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaking